It is the 8th of February 2025, and we have got twins and potentially triplets in terms of tropical cyclones in the southern Indian Ocean. Let's take a look. We got Vince over here, that's the strongest. Then we got Talia, and probably the most potentially dangerous that we'll focus on is a developing system off the coast of northwestern Australia. Let's first take a look at the strongest of the storms. This is Cyclone Vince. It's currently estimated to be 130 knots sustained winds, which makes it Category 4 on the Saffir-Simpson scale. You'll see there are a few islands that are in this side-on view from GeoCompSat. And those are over here, there's Reunion, and then here is Mauritius. And there are some other islands off a little bit further to the east, so I'll check the track, but essentially I think this is avoiding all islands and heading off. It's forecast to take a turn down towards the south and weaken, but currently it is very impressive, strong, major hurricane strength storm. So let's take a look at that track of Vince. The track here is from the Joint Typhoon Warning Center, and you can see it coming along and taking this turn. Over here to the west is Mauritius and Reunion Islands. This is the NOAA 20 VERS satellite image underneath, and this is from yesterday, which is why the track starts a little bit ahead of the storm, because it's a bit later now. But yeah, we can see it coming up, taking that turn. Extremely impressive structure on the storm, very symmetric. In fact, they were talking about it being annular, potential eye wall replacement cycle coming up. But yeah, it does take that turn to the south, and then you see the winds weakening to 95 knots and 75 knots. It's because the subtropical ridge is shifting position. The subtropical ridge is what is driving the storm towards the west. And then it shifts position, and then it starts edging down towards the south into cooler waters and weakening. I don't see any islands in here at all. So yeah, let's move on to the next storm. The island I was thinking of that is to the east of Mauritius is Rodriguez, and it is just in here. I'd forgotten about it and totally missed it on the satellite image, but anyway, it is well out of the track, so not at risk, but there it is. Moving a little to the east of Vince, well, quite a long way to the east, we've got the next storm in our chain of storms, and this is Tropical Cyclone Talia, and it is, you can tell from the structure immediately that it is a weaker storm. It's a tropical storm strength system. Get rid of that label. And also, by the way, this label up here, I have no idea if that's accurate or not. A lot of the CIRA labels are a bit messed up in certain areas. I don't know about that one, but what I can tell you is that there is actually an island not that far away from this storm, but not being majorly adversely impacted. I'd imagine it's not really getting too much, just a little strengthening of the winds, but it is the Cocos Islands, and you can just make it out as a tiny bit of yellow up here. But aside from that, they'll be getting some surf off this and maybe some enhanced showers, but the storm is forecast to move away and into areas where there are no islands. It is forecast to intensify, become a hurricane strength system, but only not a super strong one. We'll keep an eye on it. But let's move closer to Australia, to the really big system potential damaging one. The next system is even more of a mess, really. Here is Talia over here, and then our new potential developing system is really nothing but a cluster of a whole bunch of thunderstorms. This here is the border between Western Australia and the Northern Territory over here. Just label that in. But the danger here is that a small storm, comes out over the ocean as a sort of a precursor low pressure system, and then over these very warm waters, potential for a rapid strengthening of the system that could then threaten this coastline over here of Western Australia. And I'm going to show you the scariest model, I guess. The first one is the European Center model. I think it was looking scary earlier. I haven't checked it in a few hours, so let's have a look. This is the European Center model prediction. The circulation you can see up here, it's going that way. So southern hemisphere, so it's clockwise rotation. And let's move forward. Actually, you know, it does have a distinct circulation center already, so perhaps I should check the scatterometer data to see if this is actually a closed circulation. But we'll get to that in a moment. Let's just check out this forecast because it is a bit weird. So as the center comes edging along the coast, the storm intensifies but is extremely close to the coast. So basically, if the center moves over land, it's going to weaken and probably fall apart. But if it stays out of the ocean, it can feed off that energy and intensify. You can see the circulation is very small, and that's probably because of the effect of the land that's helping to sort of concentrate the circulation. But it's a strong, small storm and a dangerous storm for the central areas of the storm system, which are relatively small. Anyway, it does come off down the coast of Western Australia over the open ocean, maintaining strength, and then coming down towards the coast where there seems to be weak steering flow that is stagnating the storm for a period of time. We're already into Wednesday of next week here, and then eventually the storm just hangs around near the coast in the European Center model, and we'll see that others are completely different to this, but it does eventually make landfall around this area. I'm just going to zoom in because I don't know what towns are here. So it's Port Hedland in this particular model. This is highly uncertain, because if we compare with the global forecasting system model, which is coarser resolution, so you can see less detail, and it could be potentially a worse forecast, but it basically shows no significant development at all, really. We've just got a general kind of circulation in the Timor Sea there, and that just kind of moves around and doesn't really gather together even as we go through to next Thursday. Just a kind of a broad scale, low pressure system. I am a bit skeptical about that global forecast, that GFS forecast, because it is coarser resolution. And if we look at the Access model, which is the Bureau of Meteorology's model, here it is. And this does show also, as with the European Center model, it does show a cyclone developing and coming on shore. But the location of landfall is, well, extremely different. It brings the storm onshore much more rapidly. This is only Monday with it looks like a rapid intensification getting interrupted as the storm makes landfall in that region. Let's just look in there at what we're looking at here. So near Derby. So there is a huge distance between Derby and Port Hedland. So it really gives you an idea as to how incredibly uncertain the landfall location is for this storm. We will have no idea until maybe tomorrow or the day after. Having said that, the Bureau of Meteorology have issued a track map, and they track the low on a similar track to the European Center model rather than the Axis model we just looked at. This is likely because they're looking at a different Axis model. They're looking at a tropical cyclone focused model, which we don't have access to, even though it's called Axis. But so that takes the storm and brings it in, and you can see there's Port Hedland, so it's bringing it down close to Port Hedland, category 3 on the Australian scale at that point. So this is going to be very interesting to see how this develops over the next few days. Where do you think it's going to make landfall? Let me know in the comments. Sea surface temperatures in the storm development region are very warm at the moment. They're around the 30 to 31 degrees Celsius mark. The scale is over here on the left. As I move the cursor, you'll see the temperature adjusting to the temperature. It's all between the cursor adjusting to the temperature, between 30 and 31 Celsius. And it's all kind of tucked along this coast. And actually, if we switch to the anomaly map, which is the difference from normal, you see that there is much higher temperatures than normal off to the west of that northwestern side of Western Australia, but it's actually below normal to the north. And so the cyclone, if it takes that track, will be moving over the warmer than normal waters as it heads towards the Western Australia coast. Highly uncertain. Let's just wait for tomorrow and see how it develops, but be on high alert. Well, I'm kind of surprised, but we actually have a hurricane wharf simulation already set up. And here is the plot from Tropical Tidbits. I haven't looked at this yet, so let's go through it together. These are the surface winds, so all of these kind of cyans and blues are below tropical storm strength. So as a tropical low, it's being correctly initialized. It's being below tropical storm strength. That probably won't remain because it's going to intensify in this model, probably. Actually, oh, look at that. There's a little bit of tropical storm force winds down there. Let's move forward as we go. And this is initialized at 0Z February 8th. Okay, so this morning. So it's a pretty up-to-date run. And let's see, Hurricane Wharf is jumping around. So this is a storm following domain, and the problem is if the low is not very distinct, then the domain is shifting around trying to figure out where the center of the storm is. So I actually think this might be a junk simulation, but let's see what it does anyway. It's jumping all over the place, producing multiple low pressure systems and eventually coagulating together into a storm system and bringing it in, oh geez, rapidly intensifying before landfall. Coming on, though, not rapidly intensifies, becomes probably a briefly major hurricane strength, then it actually weakens as it approaches the coast a little bit. Probably bring it down to category 2 on the Saffir-Simpson scale. Then it kind of, oh, wow, okay, so then it intensifies and then comes ashore. It doesn't come ashore, it stays on the coast, intensifying further to become a major hurricane in this model. What a crazy simulation this is. One of the weirdest Hurricane Wharf simulations, and you know, it's going to change massively in the next run, I would guess, because just look at this track. So many complications from the probably relatively poor initial data to the interaction with the complicated coast all through the forecast. Highly uncertain, but definitely a dangerous looking storm, because there are a consistent number of models now that are taking it down into that area. So the Bureau's model, whatever they're using, European Center model, Hurricane Wharf is also edging it down into that area, and all of them are intensifying the storm as it heads towards that coast of Western Australia. So we'll definitely keep an eye on it. And thanks for watching, and let me know what you think we should talk about in the next video or more in the comments. Peace out. Later.